Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Good Game Roundtable podcast. I'm Lin Jie Kong, and this is part 3 of Humans of Good Game, a new series on the podcast filled with individual interviews with everyone on the team. We're celebrating Good Game's 10th anniversary this year, so I thought, what a better time to ask everyone to discuss their experiences working on the show. Later in the episode, we'll hear from Goose, but first it's Andrew Hope, our senior editor. Andy is a consummate storyteller, ultra nerd, and one of the best montagists out there. I don't think montagist is a word, but if it was, I'm sure Sergei Eisenstein would agree with me. The joys of being an editor at the ABC is that, 99% of the time you're confined into a very small space, a very dark space. There's probably fungal growth on the wall somewhere, some black mold. It's a health hazard.
Indeed.
Why are you still here, Andy?
They let me come back every day. They let me in. I enjoy it a lot. I really enjoy putting television together. Like I do. I get a kick out of it. It's a lot of fun. So,
I mean, you in the editors podcast, you detailed, I guess, your history, your education. You studied filmmaking and everything. Like, did you ever think you would fall into kind of this space of being an editor and having done it for so long as well?
Well, I mean, if you're going back to uni days without all the details again, I didn't know exactly what it'd be. Like, I thought maybe I might be behind the camera a bit more. And I did that at uni, and that was fun, as a lot of fun as well. But I did take to editing from an early stage, like just the fun I get to have putting something together and maybe changing slightly what was expected or adding little jokes and just working with something. I took to making jokes with editing and music and timing at an early stage. It was something I enjoyed, including sort of even gaming related jokes in my work. It's actually interesting, and it relates to my early memories of Good Game, becoming an editor, is that I actually started here in audio and worked in audio for a couple of years. I probably did say it's an editor's podcast, but I was changing from audio to editing at the time, and someone higher up, like my boss, said at the time, there's this new show coming in called Good Game, like this gaming show. I didn't think it had a name yet. And did I want to be the sound mixer for it? And I was torn because I love gaming and I had enough experience as a sound mixer to do it. I'm not as experienced as our sound mixer right now, Tim. He actually taught me a lot of things when I first came here, and he's great. But I could have done the job, and they would have had me because they knew that I was a gamer working here. I've been here for 13 years, so before Good Game started, and I had to make. And
you are the biggest nerd on the team.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That actually means a lot to me.
I mean, there is no debate about that, right? You are the biggest gaming nerd, on the team.
Yeah, I mean, maybe John might be insulted by that, because he's pretty hardcore.
You are.
Yeah, but I'm an old school nerd from the early days. John, ladies and gentlemen, does admit that when he met me back in uni, that he thought he was hardcore into games, and then he met me and was like, oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm only on a 6th level compared to.
But once you
Andy.
Once you start working here, though, I think everyone kind of evens out. But I've got the nerd part down pat.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Do you have a medal for that? I feel like we should make you a medal.
I'd like one.
Yeah. Okay. We'll work on that. So you're working in audio. Was that your first memory of Good Game?
My first memory of Good Game was before it existed and someone asking me if I wanted to work on it and having to say no.
Yeah.
And that's like 2006 or maybe even late 2005. Didn't know Janet, didn't meet Janet till 2010 when I started working on the show.
Yeah.
My first memory of Good Game was them telling me that there would be this gaming show at the ABC and being happy about that, being like, oh, that's so cool. The place that I work at is going to have that. Thinking hopefully it would be cool. Maybe it was going to be crap. I didn't know. We didn't know at the time. And I think it is great. But
and did you follow it from the beginnings?
I watched it. I didn't watch it religiously from the beginning, but then I didn't watch a lot of stuff that we worked on here.
You're too busy, doing your nerdy gaming stuff.
Basically, I was playing a lot of games.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I remember a full year of Left 4 Dead. There was just all I did. Like, that was just leading up to a good game. It was sort of 2008 or something like that. But yeah, Half-Life 2 was out at around that time. So, there's a lot of things to do. But yeah, I watched and I followed it along its progress.
And during, I guess, those 4 years you were working on other projects, like, did you try and shift yourself to work on the show?
Another editor friend of mine who I'd been working on a couple of other shows, one of those being Catalyst. I'd been his assistant, and he actually started working here on Good Game. And I talk with him all the time, and we would play our daily lunchtime game of throwing a ball into an empty box in the corner of the room from different places, basically like horse basketball or whatever.
I love that. It's like, is that what editors do to pass the time?
Basically, yeah. While you're waiting for tapes, you don't have tapes anymore too much, but that was it. And one time during one of those games, he said that there was going to be an opportunity coming up for the second editor position. And at that exact time, my wife was having a baby and I was going to be away. So John came in and did it instead, who was my assistant.
Yeah.
And then I had to kind of fight, and John maybe grimaces at this, but to get that spot.
Yeah,
back.
but he got kicked to spawn point, which is bad, because
not a bad thing.
He got the ability to basically be his own head editor on a show.
It's actually an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And
he didn't think of it that way.
Perhaps not.
I mean, but that's John for you.
Yeah. Well, I can understand it. I trained him. He took the job that I really wanted for all that time. I understand. No, we're good friends.
But I mean, you've been editing Good Game since 2010, and I don't even know how many hours you've edited. It's like 43 episodes a year.
Yeah.
Like 7 years or something.
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of episodes under my belt now, yeah.
That's a lot of episodes. So do you have a favorite memory or moment, when you're editing or when you're working on the show? I mean, you get to see a lot of bloopers.
Yeah. Yeah, the bloopers are great. The error sound on my computer is just Bajo's noises from outtakes. Yes. Yeah, that one.
That's my impression of it, but I will siphon it from your computer and play it to everyone.
Yeah, you can put it in there. I mean, okay, I'm going to list a couple and I'll go into detail.
Yes,
on
one you're allowed to have more than one. I've said this to everyone.
Yeah, so the gameplay multiplayer is pretty great. Like, we only get to show a little bit of it, but they play these long sessions and there's just so much fun moments that happen through it all, and you hear like the best bits. But being able to put those together and sort of, sometimes I'm playing with them, sometimes I'm not, but just hearing their sort of banter and putting that together in the reviews is a lot of fun. I actually remember one of the first ones we did it with. This was like, it sort of evolved while I was on the show. I was editing the Terrario, however you say it, the side-scrolling Minecraft-like game. I was putting that one together, and Bajo captured most of it while having his Ventrilo, his voice chat app open and feeding to the capture. And so I put a lot of it in. It wasn't a thing before for us. And I just try to get as much of it in as possible and as many silly moments. And it worked and we liked it. And, obviously these days you think, of course, like, YouTube videos and all that and Let's Plays and everything. People want to hear people playing. But at the time we weren't doing it. We were just doing reviews and gameplay footage clean.
So how do you see the shift in your editing in terms of Good Game in the early years and Good Game now? Because obviously we are always influenced by what's happening in the real world and, where gaming culture is going and how people consume content. And I think if you watch a Good Game episode, say 7-8 years ago, it's very different to what it is now.
Yeah.
And that the tone and the way we edit game footage and the way we I guess tell a story is quite different. Like how have you seen that?
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, there's so many things that influence the way we make this show. There's the outside factor of like what's happening on YouTube or in games themselves and things like that. You know, you can get inspiration and learn from anywhere. But we even sort of internally on the show, we learn from each other and inspire each other. So I mean, I would just get bored and want to do something different with the reviews. Like I would try and put more, I don't know, silly moments in from the games and put them in there and let them speak or have montages at the early parts of reviews. I started building bigger and bigger ones at the beginning of the review, and they weren't sort of like expected. The person who reviewed the game, like Bajo or Hex, didn't like put it in there that had to be there, but I would just start to build them in. And then they would see that and see the ways that they could, using their capture and their play, sort of build that into what they wanted to tell us about the game and kind of give us a few moments that they weren't going to go into detail on. And it sort of influenced the way they would structure their discussion about a game in the review. And then, you know, it's sort of like this like back and forth of like they would do something different that would change the way I would work. And then I would, you know, like then sort of evolve it from there. And similar to even the name the game gags that we were doing at the end of the episodes, like there was just one of those was written and it was very short and very simple. And I, much like Ben who directed that one, was just not having enough fun, silly things to do on the show. There's a lot of good fun moments on Spawn Point, but sometimes the big show, as we call it, gets like a bit straight and we needed something, an outlet, and that was it. So I put like as much as I could into it. This is like 20-30 second moment, as much, you know, like crazy sort of sound and kind of amping it up to the, you know, to 11. Yeah. And Ben saw that and was like, oh, and then he sort of took the next one further and we would always sort of build on it. So yeah, but I watched the Old Republic review that we did, like the original one. I think it was that one, yeah. And I feel like when I watched that, it's very quick and they just kind of talk. All the information is there, but we don't sort of savor any of the moments. Like we just kind of go through each bit. They tell us about the game, Bajo and Hex, and they go through it really quickly and we kind of just see it and it just sort of zips along. And I think now we sort of celebrate some of the moments a bit more. We have a little bit more fun with it, and you know, we sort of, I think we try and engage with our personal experience with the game more.
And what are some of your other memorable favorite moments? I mean, you know, you've talked about the name the games and obviously the really fun stuff, and that's always a joy and a lot of fun to work on. But you know, the bulk of your work is still reviews and intros and outros.
So the bulk of my work, yeah, it is that. It's reviews and the compiling of the whole episode. Yeah, 90% of the games that I would want to play, I get to see 30 plus hours of gameplay capture before I even get to touch the game. I try when I can, depending on like when the game's released or whether I can get a hold of the work copy, to play it myself, because it helps me to sort of tell the story a little bit better of like what we want to experience from the review. And I'll try and get some of my own capture in there if I think that I can add something to it, you know, like from a sort of a style perspective, you know, sort of some kind of cinema moment to it all, if the game allows it, being able to manipulate camera angles and all that. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy putting the montages together. I enjoy these multiplayer moments.
Is there a specific moment that you've edited that kind of still is stuck in your memory? You know, you might think about it on a bus one day and, you know, you start cackling about it.
DayZ is obviously a good one. Like that whole review is a lot of fun. Just the shenanigans they got up to, and Reign of Kings. Those are good moments. Just DayZ was a lot of fun because, like, I mean, obviously the music wasn't in that game, right? That was something that I got to add to it. They had that moment, and that moment was that amazing for them, but it plays out over a much longer period of time. And so I've got to condense that down and tell that story within a short space of time. And so I get to do that for the audience and let them experience as much of what Bajo and Hex and everyone experienced playing that game, and having her venture through this like kilometers of land through this game, trekking to eventually just find them, and then moments later get shot. It was as like, you know, frustrating for them as it appears on the show, and like emotional, and to condense that tale, which was literally like 2 days of playing, and to try and get the audience to kind of get that sense of it was my job. And so sort of being able to put my own input into it and give you just what you need, and the music, it's just, I don't know, I find myself chuckling along and enjoying that as much as the audience, I hope.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, you'd hope so, right? Because again, the thing with creating something and making something is that you put your own joy and effort and passion into it, and so the audience can feel that come across, right? You don't want to work on something and hate it, because I feel like that the boredom and the jadedness does come across to the audience.
Yeah,
you know, if
you're not enjoying what you're doing,
exactly,
it's going to be, you're going to see it on the screen, you're going to feel it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite blooper?
Oh,
it's probably too many to list over the 7 years or so.
I got a few in the works for this year's rap party, like a few building. Do I have a favorite blooper? What have I got? Oh, see, everything I'm going to, I cannot say on this podcast. I'm sorry.
The other thing is, as an editor, you also hear all the shit that we talk about on set, right?
Yeah.
So like the studio is like a locker room, you know? I mean, you know, Donald Trump's been talking about locker room chat and what is permissible and what is not.
Yes,
and we talk a lot about a lot of random stuff in the studio that you guys are very privy to. Mm-hmm. Is that like all internalized? Like, do you have to go home and kind of, do you have an emotional outlet to talk to someone about?
That's a good question. You know what? I just deal with it in my own way. I just sort of go into a dark, soundproof room and just scream for hours. So if anyone's out there and
help him, guys.
Just I mean it. No, there's so much good fun stuff. The outlet is this is not going to be good for the audience. They're going to hate this, but the outlet is the rap party. We put together a staff only blooper reel with all that fun stuff.
And that's never going to air, guys.
Yeah,
so it's not going to be like, you know, the X-Files where the blooper reel gets leaked, because there's a lot of stuff there which is not safe for work.
Yeah, it all gets burnt afterward. It's gone.
Yeah.
But it's they're a lot of fun. There's nothing really too crass in there, but they have a lot of silly fun, and they, you know, we all try and make each other laugh all the time, really.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, everything goes. It's, you know, a lot of people have mentioned in these interviews that the Good Game is very much like a family. And so much so that, you know, the things that you talk, not even things that you might talk to your family about, you talk to your colleagues here about. Yeah. Like, there are things that I would never say to my closest friends, but I have like discussed with various people on this show. Yeah. And it's like, it's a safe and happy place for everyone.
Yeah. I guess my outlets are probably John and Bajo, Stephen. In the early days of my Good Game experience back in, I think 2010, I guess it was, or maybe 11, I think it's 2010, we played a lot of Battlefield Bad Company 2 together. And so there was a bond on the battlefield that we forged.
A brotherhood.
Yeah. And so sometimes, but really everyone here you can sort of talk to about anything. Like, it is a bit of a family. But I
also want to mention to the audience that we're currently in your edit suite, and I think your edit suite's the only one with a couch in it.
Yes, it is.
And so this couch means that often you play therapist to a lot of people on the show, because they come up in this dark place and they sit on your couch.
This is true.
And they tell you all their problems. And I've actually slept on this couch.
Yes. After GDC, was it, or E3?
No, it's GDC.
GDC.
So after our epic last edit session of GDC, before it was meant to go to sound mix and go to air that night, I think I sent you home in the morning hours.
Yeah,
and I said, Andy, you need to go home before I get lynched by our production manager for making you work. Well, and by your family members as well.
Yeah. So I got the cab charge taxi home.
Yeah, I was like, you need to go home. I will do the export. I'll make sure the export goes through. And then I spent the rest of the night/morning on this very lovely couch. Probably a little bit gross. I didn't want to think about how many people have been on this couch. But it was kind of comfortable.
Nothing too odd happens on this couch apart from the stories and the tears.
And the tears, the many, many tears, the crying. Is there something that you're incredibly proud of during your time at Good Game?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So there's lots of things really. But I do enjoy our specials that we do. E3 and GDC obviously come to mind. I'm really proud of what they've become. Like, I hope that the audience gets to sort of go on a little bit of a journey and sort of with the hosts that go over there. I hope that they feel like they get to experience a little bit of E3 and this little road trip sort of thing that we do these days. And they're a big effort. They're an hour long and they're a lot of hard work. But I'm proud of the work we did with those. I mean, we mentioned the mental health episode, and the audience did as well in the birthday episode. And that one is very important to me as well. For that one, I mean, apart from compiling the episode as a whole, the part that I worked on the most, because I work with another editor, but the part that I worked on the most was Barjo's interview. I call him Barjo a lot. I know his name's Stephen and he's our friend, but I actually call him Barjo.
It's easier.
And he interviewed someone who I thought was very brave and willing to talk about like a very personal issue. And they came back with sort of this 40 minutes roughly of this very heartfelt conversation. And it was my job to bring that down to something that we could sort of fit into our episode, which was a tough job. And I think we did it justice in the end. And I was proud of what we put together as a team. And I was glad to have been able to work on it.
And it was a great episode. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. For you, what's that game that takes you to your happy place?
Okay. I'll have three.
Yep.
2 quick ones and then one that I'll talk about a bit more.
Okay.
So Half-Life 2 is special to me. It's kind of like my old book that I could go back to and read again. I can go back and play that game and it takes me back to that particular time in my life. I mean, there's other experiences I could go back to be even younger, but I can play through it and just enjoy it, and it's just a bit personal and special to me. Minecraft these days is something that I play with my kids, and I dabbled with it when it first came out, but now I'm sort of seeing how amazing this game is, building with them, and it's just sort of fun. You can kind of just sit back, go to your happy place in a different way of just kind of creating and digging and mining and finding and surviving. But the third one I'm going to cheat with a little bit because it's the one that I think about the most at the moment. It's the one that I probably talk about the most in the office when I do talk about things. And that's actually tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. That's the one that takes me to my happy place. I Dungeon Master 2 games, one at the tabletop at my house, which some of my friends and Barjo play in together. And we sort of have this campaign running for the last 3 odd years and this shared storytelling experience. And I have a second game that I'm running at the moment for some of the people in the Good Game office, Pierreth, Pete, Elliot, Cloud Busting, and Nick Boy's there sometimes, and Gus, Goose. And we play that one with a virtual tabletop software online. Both the games are very different experiences, but both of them bring me a lot of joy. I enjoy. It's the most multiplayer game. It's the most multiplayer that I play these days. When you consider that a lot of the things I play are often single player, as video games, the most time that I spend playing something with someone is through that storytelling experience, that role-playing experience of Dungeons and Dragons. And it's the thing that surprises me the most. Sometimes games can become a bit formulaic and you're set on this path. Even if you have choices, someone had to design the game and you have to play out sort of what they experience. There are things outside that, like DayZ and Minecraft and other things, where it's kind of a little bit more, you know, the interactions you have with people are the moments that occur. And that's kind of what Dungeons and Dragons is, but on a much larger scale. It's sort of, I get to tell a story, I get to write a story and tell it with, there's one of my Dungeons and Dragons players now messaging me. I get to tell this story with this group of people and see them sort of experience it. And I guess it's sort of that creative in me that likes editing, that likes making a show, making something for an audience, is I get to make this thing for these people, but I get to see them experience it there with me, and they get to add to that experience. They get to change it. They get to have agency over it. And we just have a lot of fun and a lot of laughs.
And that's why we crown you old school nerd.
Yeah.
King of nerds.
I have proven my nerdiness right now here on this podcast.
Just to finish off, what does good game mean to you?
It's a good question. That one wasn't on the list.
I like to throw a few in there.
Yeah, no, that's
on the
good.
List?
What does it mean to me? Well, it's meant the last 7 years of my life. It's more than a job. I care a lot about what we do. I hope that people enjoy what we do. Sometimes on occasions I've thought, you know, I would make a TV show. It's not, you know, that important. You know, there's so many other very important things that people do out there, you know, obviously doctors, teachers, you know, this kind of thing, people that help people in their own way. But I've also had my own stresses in my life. Everyone does. And, you know, you can go through harder periods of your life, and sometimes you just need to connect with someone, or to connect with it in an experience, or to escape sometimes, or just to smile. And there are many things out there that I go to for those experiences. Sometimes it can just be people, you know, family and friends, but sometimes you need something else, a movie or a book or a show. And I hope that what we do provides that for a lot of people, that thing that makes their day a little bit better every now and then. So that's, yeah.
And it's an important, very, very important job, I think, for all of us. Thank you so much for your time, Andy. And thank you for the use of your couch.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. And that was Andy Hope, amazing editor and good game therapist. Next up is Paul Nunes, editor and owner of the best facial hair out of the entire Good Game team. Paulie.
Hi, Lynn.
How's it going?
I'm good.
Your beard-moustache combination is so regal right now.
Thank you.
It's so good. It's looking good, man.
Cheers. I grew it myself.
Yeah.
My favourite joke to make whenever anyone mentions it.
Do you put some like nutrients in?
Occasionally. Okay, look,
some Osmocote.
Actually, it's kind of embarrassing, but it's like so good.
Yeah.
Head and Shoulders.
Yeah.
Smooth and silky.
Oh. Okay.
The shampoo and conditioner combo.
Yeah.
Love it.
Beautiful for the beard.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. That's a good one for our audience to know.
Yeah.
I guess you're one of the newbies on the team. What was your first memory of Good Game? And it could be like the first time that you watched Good Game.
I think the earliest I can remember, I have vague memories of I think Versus Mode, the little cartoon and things like that. But the first distinct memory was, I don't know what year it was, but there was a segment on Machinima which was super exciting because I thought there was like so underground. Like I was a film student who loved games and was like, I didn't know other people knew about this, and it's on our national broadcaster. Like, way to blow the lid off this thing.
Like, holy crap! Like, who gave a go ahead to this show? Like, what is this thing?
Yeah. So that was awesome. That was like, I thought it was like a thing that nobody knew or cared about.
Yeah.
And then, hey, there was a great segment on Good Game.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool. Yeah.
And for our audience, apologies for that whirling noise in the background. It's actually Paul's computer, which is currently dying because it's about a decade old.
Yeah.
And the ABC has don't have money to replace it.
Yeah. Well, apparently next year we'll be moving on. But
apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
They said that last year, Paul. Don't trust anyone in this building. So I guess in the last however many months you've been with us, what's something that you've what's your favorite and most memorable like moment that you've worked on?
I have super pride for working on the representation and diversity story. That was super cool. I was so happy to be working on that. Because it feels important and relevant and like genuinely like a positive influence on gaming culture and the industry. So that's definitely like the most pride in terms of topic that we covered. Yeah. And then there's a few montages that I think that have been really fun. It's been like working on E3 and GDC is like so epically fun and exciting. And then just some great moments where I quietly am like, that was a sweet montage.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that one.
Yes, I've made it. Yeah. So, I mean, what have you kind of taken out of Good Game? I mean, you've been in the games industry for a while. You've had like a very long career, I guess, in the media. What do you take out of your experience with us here? Like, has it been much different to what you've experienced in the past? Like, are we a bunch of really weird nerds?
Look, I think the main thing is that I didn't really expect to, I don't go into a job thinking, these people are great, I'm going to get along with them really well.
Yeah.
Like, I mostly think there's, like everywhere you go, there's some nice people, there's some people that aren't so great and whatever.
Yeah.
But frankly, the team is just so cool. Like, I really like everyone here, like, so genuinely. It's awesome.
I mean, we are pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I don't trust you because you are in this building.
Right.
But, pretty cool.
I'm a pretty cool person. I mean, just don't trust me, right?
Yeah.
But you could,
Yeah.
We can hang.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me your secrets because you don't know.
That's right.
Do you have a game that takes you to your happy place?
Yeah. Initially, right, I was thinking Doom is like really great. Like it's just so, I find it hilarious. Like I find it a really funny game. It's a little bit cathartic. It's a bit funny. But then I realized, actually what really is genuinely my happy place.
Yeah.
It's definitely Elite Dangerous in VR.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, if I have half a day free on the weekend, just like putting that headset on, the hours just dissolve away and I'll sit there and sometimes I'll be fighting. But even the combat is not like super fast paced. Like, I'm still... Like, unless I'm trying to run away because I've stuffed it up and I need to get out of there, put all my energy into the engines and get out of there. The rest of the time, it's like a sort of tactical, slow-paced thing, or I might be exploring. Like, recently, I was just like, I wonder what it looks like from the middle of that nebula, and spent an hour and a half jumping my way into this nebula and then looking around. Yeah. And it's like, that is the most chill, the most relaxed place in gaming that I have at the moment. Yeah.
And you're a big proponent of VR.
Yeah, super into VR.
Like, do you have all the headsets now? Or?
No. I have a Gear VR and the Vive.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have tried the Rift, or maybe it was just a DK2. So I might not have even tried the consumer Rift.
Yeah. So for you, is that the future of gaming?
I think I actually am convinced. Who was it that said this? Look, I can't remember who it was. But there's one of my favorite game designers, I can't remember his name right now, actually convinced me in one of his talks that augmented reality is much more likely to take off than VR. Largely because VR, unless you're teleconferencing or you have, remote presence and things like that, it's quite isolating. It's really awkward. It's, ways of putting your actual space that you're in inside VR is really weird. Augmented reality does it very naturally. And also he made a really good case for children picking up augmented reality really easily. Once we've got it, easy and light, parents can see what's happening. They feel safe. They're not, it's not like they're hidden away from the stuff and they're just going to play and there's going to be a generation of people that will grow up. So if I was going to put my money on something that's the future, I would probably, even though VR's, I think we can safely say it's taken off now.
Well, at least with AR, you can see where you're going.
Yeah, you can see where you're going.
Like the issue with VR is like, you've got a cord hanging out the back of your head and you can't see anything in the real world.
That's right.
And there's a real, I guess, dislocation plus danger in that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas AR, you're in the real world, but the real world is embellished.
Yeah.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Paul.
No worries. Thanks for listening to what I have to say.
It's all important, Paul. Thank you.
No worries.
So the lesson here, folks, is to look after your beard, look forward to the proliferation of augmented reality in the near future, but most importantly, don't trust anyone in the ABC building. Next, it's Goose. I've had the pleasure of sitting next to Goose for over half a decade now. That's possibly more time I've spent next to anyone in my entire life. He's very multi-talented. He's a presenter, editor, all-round graphics whiz, and also incredibly talented at talking. Goosey, Gooseface, McGoosey.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, good. Have we started?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
What's your earliest memory of Good Game?
Wow. There's my earliest memory of watching the show.
Yeah, so basically the earliest memory.
Yeah, it would probably be watching it on, I think it was a Friday on ABC One when they were doing repeats of the episodes. And I think it was a weekend. I was at uni. I was in a share house. I used to go out on Friday nights, and if I didn't go out on a Friday night, I bunkered down with, a bunch of video games. And so I think I was just scrubbing through channels to set up my Xbox, and I caught two guys on a couch talking about video games, and I was like, oh, well, this is close to what I was going to be doing anyway, so I may as well just watch it. And yeah, I was like, this is cool. This is exactly, my bag. It's the two people talking about something I like, and then I eventually kept watching it on the Fridays, found it on the Tuesdays, and then, actually just ended up watching it from then. So back in the Jung days, I think.
And now you got the job through an open call.
Yes.
So you had to go through a full audition process.
Well, the call was actually in the episode, which I remember verbatim because it was at the end of an ep where Hex and Barjo both finished the episode, and they said, and we're running a competition, but it's not for a prize, it's for a job. And my ears pricked up and I thought, oh, wow, that's quite cool. And they were saying we need to replace the field reporter, Ajax, at the time. And I was currently working on a cooking show, I think. I was editing a cooking show. And I don't love cooking. And when you're editing something, you're staring at it 24/7. And I decided I was having a little crisis at my job, thinking if I'm going to work as an editor, I want to work editing something I like. And so basically I drew up a list, which was video game, movies, and surfing. And I was like, if I can get a job editing one of those things, I'll be happy for a longer amount of time. And then fortunately, very serendipitously, I saw that episode and they were advertising for that field reporter job. And so they said, send in an audition video. So I set up my camera in my apartment and I proceeded to try and film a bunch of, interviews and questions and introductions and PTCs by myself, which proved a lot harder than I initially thought, especially considering I had a shocking head cold. And so I've since gone back and looked at the footage of that, and it's me like sneezing and swearing. And at one point, I storm off down the hallway while the camera's still rolling, and I say, this is never going to work. But fortunately, it worked, and Janet called me up, and I came in and then said I've got a bunch of other skills that I like working in TV. And so, I got a reporting and producing role out of it.
So for a lot of people, you, Barjo, Hex, Nick, Rad even have their dream jobs. Like they're like, you get to play games all day,
Not true.
You get to be on TV.
Semi-true.
This is like a dream job. How do you see that?
Yeah, it's funny because everyone you talk to, you've got like sort of dinner party conversation version of that, which is like everyone's going around the table what they do, and then when it gets to you, like, I work on a video game show, and everyone goes, oh, that must just be so much fun. This is not how I have dinner parties, but it's that kind of thing where people...
It's how you had dinner parties in your head.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's that thing where people go, describe the job, and I'm like, the job is actually like any other job. It's made up of lots of other small elements that are at times very laborious and, fun, or sometimes very, very difficult. For us, it's, ingesting, shooting, gear wrangling, footage wrangling off the internet, assembling footage, writing. It's a lot of smaller parts, which when you look at them are not a dream job. They're any other job. Fortunately, it's in a medium that we really like, and I think that's something that helps massively, unmeasurably. And I think that's something that I'll always take from this job as a sort of mantra to live by, which is not just do something you love, but do something about something you care about a lot, because when the job starts to get a little too, full on, and you can look around and just realize you work in something that keeps you happy, or that you do part-time.
Or at least you believe in, right?
At least, yeah.
It's hard to find work in something that you truly believe in. Yeah. I think a lot of people, aren't as lucky as we are. Like, we do work on a show, at least it's about something that we do care about. Yeah. And we enjoy.
And you say that, it's not like it means the world to me. It's not like video games are the be-all and end-all, but I look at them as something that is incredibly creative, incredibly fun, incredibly uplifting. They are something that people use in their life to, keep their levels of happiness up, along with everything else you should do in life as well. And I just think it's lovely to work in, if I worked in news isn't about keeping you happy. It's about just straight information. Or if I worked in, look, I can't come up with another example, but it's just, I love that I work in a field that is something that makes people happy through a myriad of different ways. And I think, that's something that's really important to me, and that keeps me happy when I'm working on it as well.
Or when, it becomes a job, right? Because,
exactly.
There are instances where, as you say, you have to go through all the tedious shit of this
course.
Being a job.
Yeah.
And it's not,
because
I've got
to say, we do not play video games all day. You do quite the opposite of that. Like, you read about them, you watch them, you don't sit down, you very rarely play them. You play them for review. If I get a chance to review something, I play them to find those 10 seconds of footage in a cutscene, which is just, you're not playing for fun then, you're playing for work. And so, yeah, we absorb video games on a daily basis, but I still go home and occasionally turn that off to say, now I'm going to play and enjoy one.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't even do that because I've just been around them too long. So, it's a catch-22 sometimes.
Yeah. I just tell people at dinner parties that I get to yell action and cut.
Yeah.
And then tell people what to do.
Well, I'm like,
that's
if I tell them,
the gist of my job.
If I tell them I like doing editing and compositing and effects and montaging and that requires like so much more information. So when they say, do you play video games all day? I say, yeah, pretty much. And just, we move on to something else.
And isn't that lovely?
Yes.
Yes. Champagne.
They'll never take you seriously, though. That's the thing. I'll let that slide. And then they're always like, all right, you guys talk about being, lawyers or bankers or something. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, there's Gus.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, I've done a few talks in the last couple of years. I do an annual talk to my to a media law class that my old lecturer takes on. And it's always interesting if I get grad students or undergrad students, because usually with the grad students, they're a little bit, unbelieving of the fact that video games, deserve a TV show dedicated to them.
Yeah, sure.
It's almost like, really? Yeah. Really? Like, isn't that what my 10-year-old plays? And then you try and, I did a media talk at a tech event earlier this year, and I was saying, like, you may not believe it, but this is one of the biggest media industries in the world. It is perhaps bigger than Hollywood right now. And unlike Hollywood, which doesn't really make those mid-tier films anymore, it's either indies or tentpole franchises, video games are going to continue growing for the foreseeable future.
Because, they've married themselves so strongly to just tech in general now.
Yeah.
And tech is evolving, and tech is just looking into the future. Yeah. So, of course, games are going to be around into the future. And just quickly on that, it's that thing about, we're measuring a number of things here. One of them is how serious people take video games in comparison to, say, other careers. And for me, as I mentioned before, I
can sleep so much better at night knowing I work. I mean, I'm a creative. I like working in a creative field, and I like working on something that people use, as I said, to improve their lives by being happy and to not take life so seriously. Like, that really helps me sleep at night because sure, there are people doing very important jobs. There are doctors and lawyers and all that, and that's all. They get a different satisfaction out of that.
Doctors are just as important as us guys.
God, far more. But what I mean is that, like, they have a different kind of sort of solace that they take from working in that field. And for me, I just love people being happy and smiling and enjoying their lives, those high moments. And I'm just very fortunate that I get to work in a field that provides that versus, something a little more.
Well, we work in entertainment, if we're not entertaining people, if we're not making them happy,
exactly.
then why are we here, right?
Yeah.
But speaking about happiness, what's a game, it could be retro, it could be recent, that takes you to your happy place?
To my happy place? Wow. Yeah, because that's funny, because I have, like, games that I love and cherish so much that make me happy, but they're not particularly happy games. So I guess I would have to say something like, it's sad, like anything under a Nintendo banner. You just can't help but let that rub off on you and feel, like, incredibly joyous. And for me, I sort of marry Nintendo and Pixar and Disney. It all just falls under this banner of just joy. And so for me, I guess playing any of the, like, Zelda games or Mario Kart, just sitting down for Mario Kart, like, that's a happy place because I grew up with that game. I played the SNES version with my sister when we hired it. I played the 64 version with my friends in high school, all the way through to uni. I played the latest version, the Wii version. I played, actually, that's it, Mario Kart. I'm going to stick with that. I played every iteration of that game with a different group of people that I've had great memories with, and the game is so bright and happy that is a happy place for me, I think. Yeah. And it's because it's with friends, I would say. I play with people in different capacities with lots of different games, but that is the 4-player, everyone sits down, rotating around. In particular, the Mario Kart Wii version, I remember I actually went and bought a Wii, and I bought Mario Kart, and I bought 3 other controllers, all before a big surf trip with about 6 mates, and we all went and stayed in a house, and we surfed every day, and every night we played Mario Kart non-stop. And if I could, that's that moment in life I'd like to just live on loop. Yeah. So I'll say, Mario Kart would be that game.
Awesome. Now ask me what's mine.
Oh, what's yours? Is it Mario Kart?
No, so I asked you to ask me because I'm going to answer my bit of this podcast.
Oh, good. Yes, I'll interview you as the field reporter.
No. So, like, a few people will get to ask me one question from the list.
Oh, good. This gets to me.
So you get to ask me. Again? Yes.
Lin Jie Kong, producer extraordinaire. I'm doing it. Who's that movie guy who sits in the chair?
James Lipton.
James Lipton.
Yeah. So what's your
games
favorite
make
word?
People happy. Games make people sad. What is the game that transports you, if you will, to your happy place?
So my game is the original Contra.
Oh, right.
And I remember playing that game. Like, I didn't have a console until I got the SNES around the PS1 time. So I got a console very, very late. And I remember I used to play video games by borrowing my parents' friend's console. And it was one of those like 50-in-1.
Oh, yeah.
Cartridge game consoles.
Yeah, right.
Like probably they bought it on the black market or something.
I was going to say, they were always a bit dodge, weren't they?
Exactly. But they had like 50 NES games and Genesis games in it.
Yeah.
And one of the games was Contra. And I remember the first couple of times I played it, it's a stupidly hard game. I think you get 3 lives, right? But you're meant to play it with a Konami code to actually get through the whole game. So once I actually worked out that, you can use a Konami code to do this.
I can enjoy this game.
I can enjoy this, and it was 2-player, and I used to play it with my dad.
Oh, cool.
And I love the music, and I've actually just recently played it again last week with someone, and put the Konami code in, finish it in about 20 minutes. And I know every single level like off by heart.
Yeah.
Like I know where the enemies are, I know where all the tricky points are.
It's a nice feeling going back to something that you have sort of just, instinct reaction to remembering where things are, and you think, wow, I've trained my brain to do that.
Exactly. And it all comes back to you.
Yeah.
But
if only I'd applied that to a real skill.
If only I applied that in my real life.
Exactly. But
I love that game because, and I've played it like on and off throughout my life. Like I remember the last time I played it, I must have like emulated it on my computer and plugged in my N64 controller to play it or something. And like every time I play it, it's like 20 minutes of happiness.
Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes of being 8 years old again and playing it during my school holidays. And it never fails to make me happy, like that intro song.
That song is just
amazing.
kick-ass as well.
Yeah.
And like, you look at the game, it's like two shirtless guys with headbands running around with machine. It's like a sideways bullet hell shooter. But yeah, it's still so innocent in those NES days that it kind of feels like...
But it's Rambo with aliens.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you think about these days, like that was a NES game, and how did you manage to fit that music, all those levels?
Yeah,
like
all that. They had to design with such limitations back then.
It's like 16 kilobytes or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, and it's like they come out with something that's ridiculously, as you said, memorable and deep and has a lot in it. Whereas, today they've got too much to work with. So it's all about stripping it back and going back to those retro days. Big fan of retro. So I respect your game choice, Lin.
Yes, so that's my game choice. So working on Good Game for like 6 years now. I don't know how
6 years, going on 6, yeah.
It's been a long time. What is your most memorable and favorite moment?
Memorable and favorite moment. I mean, we get to go and film a lot of those. We haven't done one in a while, but we were doing those fun sort of homage BCs or backwards compatibles, and the ones we did that come to mind are the survival zombie one. We did a James Bond one, which I know you were very fond of as well. We did a Western one, which was heaps of fun. I mean, so those moments were great in particular. Oh, look, I'll be really cheesy here, though. Like, those were fun field reporting moments, but most memorable moment would have been we shot the 10th birthday special this year, and it was great fun because we got a lot more sort of pomp and ceremony around the production side of the TV. We were rehearsing, we had all the cameras, we had an audience, we had, full makeup, we were all wearing nice clothes. And it was, it felt very, very important, at least for us. And, we were filming that episode. Anyway, episode's finished, big weight off our minds, and we were all finished up and everyone had gone to the green room to have a drink, and I went and walked upstairs and came back down, and I just walked past the big empty studio.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that it hit me that I work in television.
Yeah.
Like it was dead quiet. There was all the set and seats were still out, and it felt like all of a sudden this place that was just my work had this kind of sort of behind the scenes Hollywood. There were flats, there were big signs on air.
There was
kind of thing.
Floor manager.
There was a floor manager, but they weren't all there. It was just dead quiet, and I was like, oh my god, I get to work in a television studio, and I think I for a moment, 12-year-old Gus looked across and went like, you get to do that when you grow up? And then I sort of looked back and was like, yeah. And it dawned on me how sort of how lucky, and also how how excited I was still to work in that field. And as I said, very lucky. So yeah, that was my little. I stopped for a moment, took a little selfie in front of it all, and just took a deep breath, and then went to the green room and got drunk.
It got trash. It is amazing when you see a studio in full flow, though.
Yeah.
Like, and you think about it, like, if we weren't in a broadcaster and we didn't have access to studios, we might be on a couple cameras in like a little room somewhere.
Yeah, in someone's
like
backspace studio.
Making videos for the internet. Not to say that making videos
but it's just, there is something glamorous and, very old fashioned, and it's going away. The same way that old Hollywood, in LA is less and less about those big studio lots. Television is less and less about big studio spaces with camera 1, camera 2 and on air, and, there's less shows being made like that. So that sort of, for me, as I said, it had this sort of glamorous, nostalgic kind of look at back in the day when I watched Hey Hey It's Saturday and stuff, way back, and you used to see behind the scenes and there were people running around with headsets on. It was like, we're making television. We don't see that as much at the ABC or even as part of Good Game. We still have a very small crew. We don't take up much room. So to see all of those chairs out, to see all of those lights hanging off the ceiling, to see all that infrastructure there, which felt like how I used to think television got made. And as I said, I've got a bit desensitized over the 5 or 6 years that I just, take it for granted now. It's where I work. But just for that moment, it kind of all switched back, and I thought, I'm in a TV studio and I get to work here. So
how cool is that? Right?
Yeah, it was a nice little moment, and it was 10 years. It was a nice time to have that moment, I guess.
Yeah, it only took us 10 years, but we finally got to
a real
show. Yay!
And now people don't want real shows; they watch the internet, and I barely watch TV anymore. So it's like,
I mean, it is a dying thing. Yeah.
What's going to be the next one?
Well, thanks very much, Goose. You have to go and shoot something now.
Do we? Okay, cool.
I have to let you go.
We're off to do our job.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Lin.
Bye. On calculation, I think that's well over 10,000 hours that I've sat next to Goose. But no longer, as he's moved into Ben's office now. What the future will hold for us? I don't know, but that's the end of part 3 of Humans of Good Game. Still to come on future episodes, interviews with Hex, Rad, and everyone else. If you're into the nitty-gritty of TV production, you wouldn't want to miss out on some of the upcoming episodes. As always, if you have a comment or question, tweet me at Eljology or leave a comment on SoundCloud or Facebook. You can also subscribe to this podcast through iTunes. I'm Lin Jie Kong. Till next time, goodbye.